Hello everybody, Demon Red Mist here, and doing a new type of video here. You may or may not know, I have literally just finished doing a video about the quirks of the VW Supersport, the next DGT League car that's going to be used. I've literally just finished that, and I'd mentioned on there that I'd thought about doing a new type of video, which is all to do with the Nordschleife. Now, okay, I know a few people have seen that I've done drifting around the Nordschleife, and I've driven other cars around the Nordschleife, but one thing I've never really done is perhaps given an insight to how to perhaps go about learning the Nordschleife circuit. And not only that, how to drive it okay. Okay, I'm going to go into time trial for this, just so that I can show replays if need be. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to go for the normal Nordschleife circuit, not the excuse me, a bit windy, not the one with the GP course. Now, as I was thinking about doing this type of video, I haven't quite decided which car I was going to use for doing this video, because if I use a car that's very quick, it may be a bit too quick for me to be able to explain what's going on. So something a little slower may not be a bad idea, and to be honest, I am thinking that the Mazda Roadster would be a very good car. I just want to have a quick look and see if there is something close by that might not be too bad. I mean, I could use the VW Supersport, but it is a very quick car. You know what, I'm going to use the Megane Trophy. I've not used that for a while. It's not the fastest of cars, but it does handle quite nicely. Group 4 car, by the way. Okay, so when it comes to attempting to learn the Nordschleife, the best way you can learn it is to drive it. Because you ain't going to learn it if you don't drive it. And there is no way of Yobbo revving his fucking engine. Yeah, there's no way of looking at the track map and learning the track. There are simply too many corners. I know it's somewhere between, I think it's 130 and 147 corners that this track has got, so learning them all by looking at the track map, impossible. Also, to try and drive it and remember every single corner is an impossible task, right? Let's give it a bit of extra power, shall we? No, I'm not going to do that. Actually, it's meant to be a sensible car. Okay, so yeah, trying to learn this track and remember every single corner is near impossible if you don't already really know the track. I know this track very well, but even I can forget where I am sometimes. Now, one of the ways that I treat the circuit now is I effectively break it down into sectors, and it's not like sector 1, sector 2. It is a certain point on the track, a certain corner. So I go from one corner to the next, so I try and remember key corners, right? And that's kind of what I'm going to try and show here, and I'm going to go sort of a little slow. I'm not going to worry about these final corners just yet. Okay, so turn 1 is easy enough. It should be the first corner you easily remember. Don't brake too late. It's a nice simple left-hander. Don't get too wide on the exit. Okay, so once you're round turn 1, what's next? Well, unless you're in either an extremely powerful car or a car that has no grip, we are flat out. So I now know I can go flat out to a certain point. Okay, so I do this from, okay, turn 1. Now I'm going to go flat out. To this point. This is the key corner, right? So from turn 1 to here, I don't even need to remember. I don't need to remember the corners, I just need to remember it's flat out. So I've just taken away, I don't know what, 3 corners, something like that, out of the equation by just remembering. I only have to remember this, right? Okay, so I've got a left-hander. I'm going to have to slow down for this left-hander. It goes into a tight right. So when I get to that point, I'm going to need to know, okay, I'm going to need to slow down in the left-hander, and then I've got a tightish right. And then the way that I remember this bit is, then it's the wiggles, right? It's a little bit like Suzuka. So it's S's. And once you remember that it's the S's, that's almost the first main sector done. So from turn 1 up to here, it's okay, turn 1, don't brake too late, get around the corner, flat out until the left-hander, right, and I'm into a chicane. After that chicane, there's another 2 chicanes. Okay, so it's breaking it down into very simple things, right? So that first sort of left-hander where I've got to slow down for, and it's a chicane, that's a warning sign to, okay, that's one chicane, you've got a couple more coming that are snaked together, all right? Once we've got through those corners, now we've got the bitch, right? It's another chicane, but this one's got a very tight entry, okay? So the other corners, the first left-right, pretty quick on the way in, pretty quick on the way out, but we'll find that out as we drive it. The S's is all about smoothness and slowing down through them, and then this one is all about slow down a lot, because this is a nasty fucking corner, and you may have offs at this corner, and having an off at a corner doesn't necessarily mean you should just get pissed off. That's a noticeable thing. That's a corner you can go, right, if I can just remember that corner, then I can progress. Okay, so now we've got a very tight corner, and again it's another chicane. So once that chicane is done, okay, that now is what I would class as my first sector done, right? Turn 1, simple left-hander, flat out until the next left-hander where I need to brake, and it's a chicane. That leads me into a double chicane, which I need to slow down as I'm going through, and then a nasty chicane I really need to slow down for. So sector 1 is a simple corner, flat out, and some tricky chicanes, right? That's sector 1 done. Once we've got through sector 1, the next bit is actually quite easy, because in a race car it's pretty much flat out. Okay, now some cars will differ depending on speed and downforce ability, but into sector 2 now, as I mentioned, it's flat out. Now you'll know on first attempt at going around this corner if it's capable or not to go flat out, but we've got the dip over the crest of the hill, and in a race car, flat out. Okay, so we've got a flat out right-hander, which is a double right-hander, and we're still flat out. And we're still flat out. And yes, you guessed it, we're still flat out. Now we're up to the point to remember. Okay, so from the chicanes, that first sector done, the second sector, we've gone quite a distance, right, before we actually get to the next memorable point, okay, because it's flat out. This left-hander is the one to remember, because many cars can't take this corner flat out. If it can't, you may need a lift on the way in. Shit cars are probably going to need to brake for it. Now the trick to this corner isn't necessarily about how quick you go into it or how quickly you come out of it. It is what position is your car in on the exit of the corner, because you need to be hitting the fucking brakes, okay? So the way that I do these two corners is obviously flat out all the way up to here, and in this car I would attempt it flat out. I would expect it to make it. Hook the apex a bit, the car's going to run a little bit wide, but then at the end of the curb I want to have my car in a straight line so I can bang those fucking brakes on. The further you go here, the more likely you are to head into the gravel. The best way to make sure you make this corner every time is, by the end of that curb that's on the left I've just passed, is to be hitting the brakes while you're in a straight line. That will allow you to then take the lovely cambered corner. So we've got flat out, hit the brakes, cambered right-hander. Second, probably third gear corner. Usually third gear, depends on how you do your braking. So now, that whole sector, it's only really got two corners because it's flat out, and even that bit was flat out, but then we're braking straight after the flat out left-hander into the loopy, lovely cambered right-hand corner. Now we're still in what I would class as sector 2 at the moment, right? Because now, again, we are flat out. And even though there are corners here, we're flat out. And we're heading down the hill. So, from the chicanes, this whole section is very simple to remember because most of it is flat out and there's only really one braking point you have to remember until this. So there's two braking points in this second sector that I would class it as. Okay, so flat out into the dip, up the hill. Now some cars can take this left-hander up the top of the hill flat out. Not all. Usually it needs a lift, maybe a double brake and a downshift. But the hill reminds me blind corner. You can't see the corner, so it's a blind corner. And after the fast blind corner, we're into tricky section, and that is where my sector 3 begins. Okay, so flat out up the hill, potentially a bit of a lift off, maybe a downshift, clip the apex. The car's going to run a little bit wide, so as soon as you round the corner, bang those brakes on, because now we're into what I would class as the next sector. And this is where it's going to perhaps get a little bit trickier to sort of definitely word how I break up the track, because that first part that I've just shown is a piece of piss. It's kind of from here that it starts getting difficult. Okay, so hard on the brakes now. We've had a very, very fast section. Now we're going into a very, very slow section. Okay, so we've had tricky chicanes, very fast, and now we're into very slow. Okay, so we're hard on the brakes and working our way around the corner. Now, one of the big keys to the Nordschleife is knowing when to brake, because at least if you're slowing down soon enough for the corner, you can always get round it and you can build from there. But it's knowing what corner's coming up. So, as I mentioned, we're into the tricky bit. Now, we've got an okay-ish right-hander into an evil left-hander, which gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And one of the ways that I try and remember this particular section is we've just been pushing as hard as we can, as fast as we can. Do not push now. You push here, you're probably going off. Once you've got into that process of right, going flat out, now don't push, it gives you the opportunity to get your braking points, see the corners, see where you're going. And it's a simple 3-corner combination. A right, a left, a right. It's 3 very simple corners, but if you come in way too quick, they're horrible 3 corners. So again, I'm not really trying to remember every single one of those 3 corners. I'm just trying to remember the first one. Okay, tricky right-hander. I've got to be on the brakes as soon as I'm round that fast left-hander. So the fast left-hander, bang on the brakes, because I know there's a corner there. Once you've got the car slowed down, you can see the corners that are coming next there. It's quite simple. Now we're into a flat-out section once again. Regardless of what car you're in. Over the crest of the hill. Now this is a corner just at the bottom of this hill, which is one of my bogey corners, always was for this track, because I always felt like I could go around it faster, but whenever I tried, I'd go off. So I pretty much went down the route of, like, I'm just not even going to push. As long as I can remember that this is the corner that I was fucking up on, and that's how I learnt it. This was the corner that I fucked up on, so the amount of times I drove up to here and ended up going off, it was painful in my memory that I remembered, right, it's that fucking corner. Now I know some people, for example, there's one of the hairpins around this track where some people know it as, oh, it's that fucking hairpin, because it's one that they've missed and gone straight on into the barrier. And that's what this corner was for me. It was a fuck up point. And once I'd remembered, okay, it's that corner, don't fuck about here, I was able to get around the corner, which then allowed me to prepare for the next corner very easily. I didn't even have to remember the next corner, because if you go too fast here, you're going off and the next corner's irrelevant. But if you get this corner right, it's usually about a 4th gear corner with a latish apex, clipping the curb if you can. You get this corner right and it pops you out on the racing line here, and you can see the corner, right? So you don't have to necessarily remember it, because as soon as you're around the left-hander, you can see the corner. So this now tells you, okay, I need to brake for this corner. So this is a part where actually you don't have to remember this, because as long as you get the previous corner right, this one is in front of you and it's self-explanatory. So don't push it too hard on the brakes here. Usually a 3rd, maybe a 2nd gear corner. And as long as you get the entry right here, the exit is ever so simple. It's a very, very fast exit of a corner. So there, again, that's 2 corners there that I've never had to work on remembering, because as long as you get the previous corner right, those 2 are simple. However, and I know I've stopped saying about sectors 2, 3, 4, and that's because this does get very broken up, because it is all about just remembering certain corners. This is the first of the big hairpins, and it's very easy to forget this corner, but as you come over the crest of the hill, you kind of get the hint it's a bit of a tight one. Now, what I would say is, for anyone that is trying to learn the Nordschleife, don't go trying to brake late anywhere around this track. It just isn't worth it. You're better off braking early and going, oh, you know what, I've slowed down a bit too much there, I'll let the car roll around the corner. So as you approach this corner, even if you had no idea what corner was ahead of you, you would be able to go, you know what, I'm going to need to slow down, and you'll soon realise if it's enough. And as you get closer and closer to the corner, yeah, okay, self-explanatory, this is a tight fucker. So it's only going to take 1 or 2 occasions of fucking up this corner to start having it imprint in your mind, hairpin, fucking hairpin. Alright, so we've had 2 corners we don't need to remember, and now we've got a corner that we do. So next time we come over the crest of that hill and we're looking down and we're going, oh, it's a right-hander down the bottom of the hill, we'll remember hairpin. And this is actually one of the nicer hairpins. Okay. Now we're into one of my favourite sections of this track. So now that we've done the hairpin is a warning sign for what is coming next, okay? After that hairpin, there's going to be another one. But just before that, there's a very quick section of track. Now, in decent cars, most of it is flat out. In this car, I don't know if it could do it flat out. It might do. It's got the grip and hasn't got a lot of power. But from the hairpin we've just gone round, I'm not really thinking much about the next 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, it's all about the 5th and 6th corner that's coming up. And that's because now we're into, again, a flat out section, and it is handy to work out where you can go flat out and where you can't. So it's a flat out, very quick, lovely cambered, left, right, so easy and absolutely flat out. Okay, this right-hander, it's a bit of a tricky fucker. In decent cars, you don't even have to worry about it, you just turn around and go. Other cars struggle a little bit, so it tends to be flat out, through the left, through the right. Depending on the car, you may need to lift off, right? Because this is a very quick, long right-hander. In a decent car, it's a piece of piss, as I said. It's flat out. In a not so decent car, it's not. So yeah, that was, I'd call that 2 corners, and now we've got 3 ahead of us, and these are the ones to remember. So the hairpin warns us there's a fucking another one coming, mate, and it's even fucking worse. And again, it'll only take you a couple of times to have a crash here to go, fucking hell, it's that corner, because it is so distinctive. It doesn't look like any other part of the track. Whereas, okay, I'm on a straight here, there's barriers on the side, this could look like any part of the track. However, as we approach the corner, there's a kink right, and I always brake before the right-hander. There is no other part of the Nordschleife circuit that looks like this. There isn't one, right? It's a very distinctive part. So, right-hander that we brake before, and then we're into a double apexed, very tight left-hander, which I tend to just ignore the first apex and clip the second. Okay, so again, there isn't a hairpin like this around this track, and for anyone that has spun here and seen that barrier or seen the corner from this kind of view, you know the corner. Okay, now once you're through the horrible tight hairpin, which in actual fact is a fucking brilliant corner when you remember that that's what's ahead of you and to brake in time for it. That's why I always brake before that kink. I used to always overshoot, but now I've got to the point where I easily remember, okay, brake before, lovely hairpin, love this corner, love this corner. Okay, now we can be very aggressive on the throttle again, and we're into my next bogey corner. So we're through the tricky hairpin, now we go flat out, kink right, and the way that I remember this corner is the fact that I've crashed here so often, but it's actually not part of the track that I remember. This wall on the left, you can't see it on this version, I don't think. You can see the wall obviously, but there's a road down there, at least there used to be. Okay, maybe not on this version. I'm sure there was a bridge. There's a bridge just after. Bridge is just after. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a bridge there. Okay, anyway. This is a corner that I used to absolutely despise. No, reverse please. Because it's a corner that looks like a very quick corner. And because you've just gone through the evil hairpin and you're speeding up and you go round a right-hand kink, it's very easy to get caught out here with continuing to speed up. So the way I tend to remember it is sort of the wall, and remembering that on a different version there was a bridge where that wall is under the track. And the tricky hairpin. So the tricky hairpin leads to another tricky corner for me. Okay, so that's how I connect them. Difficult hairpin earlier on led to another difficult hairpin. That difficult hairpin is now going to lead to a tricky corner, right? And I've crashed here enough that I now remember this corner, and this is a corner where the best thing to do here is not brake late. It is so tempting to go way too quick around this corner. You just run wide and hit the barrier. Brake nice and early, get it down, usually third gear, maybe second. Don't push your luck, because you will end up on the curb and in the wall, and you really don't want that. Now that we've gone through the tricky bogey left-hander, as we're coming around the corner, we can actually see the next corner. So it's not like you need to remember this one, or do you? Well, you kind of do, because this is a corner that is a bit of a one-off. It's a very easily memorable corner in my mind, because there are not many corners like it around the track. And that's because it's uphill on entry, it's very, very positively cambered, and it is a surprisingly very, very fast corner. If you head in towards the apex too soon, you'll run wide and you'll spin and you'll crash. But if you give it a nice little bit of gentle braking and turn in late-ish and try and clip the apex about here, you will be amazed how early you can get on the power. So this again is one of those corners that for me stands out because it's very unique. And once you've driven it and got it perfect once, you'll never want to take it any other way. Okay, now we're into another brilliant section as far as I'm concerned. So we've gone through another section of like sort of tricky corners, hairpins leading on to hairpins. So hairpin, fast section, hairpin, fast section, tricky corner, tricky corner. So it's all connected in that way. It's not necessarily remembering every single corner, it's remembering, okay, that's a tricky fucker, but if I get that tricky fucker right, it leads me on to the next tricky fucker. Okay, so now we're flat out, beautiful corner that, and this bit is pretty much self-explanatory. Absolutely fucking flat out, no matter what car you're in, don't be a pussy. But don't get caught out, because now we're heading up to, oh, it's that fucking hairpin. Right, this is a beautiful section of the circuit, very fast, just teases you, go faster, go faster. You come round this corner and you look down the hill and you think, oh, okay, that looks like it could be quite a quick corner. Motherfucker's not. So after the sort of unique uphill right hand corner, we've got a very fast bit into a hairpin. Okay, so it's unique corner, flat out, kink left, evil hairpin. And it's an evil hairpin that tightens up further round the corner. So that's how I remember this sector. It's unique corner, flat out, kink left, evil hairpin that tightens the further you go around it. But once you're round that evil hairpin, now we are balls deep, flat out. And that is all you really have to remember, is flat out. Yes, there are some corners here, but it's flat out. Even this bit and this bit. Okay, as we approach here, this part of the circuit can all seem very samey. A lot of it looks alike. Okay, now there are two key corners, okay, around this very quick section, and they're warning you about a hairpin that's coming up. So we're into a very, very fast section that you don't really have to think much about up to this point, where we've got fast right that leads straight into fast left, which then leads straight into an almost blind left-hander. Now this left-hander is a very, very, very fast corner. In some cars you may be able to take it flat out, in others it needs a lift, maybe a downshift, but it is a very high speed corner. So we've flat out, fast right, fast left, caution, fast left. Okay. Now this is where, when I was first learning the Nordschleife, I used to get caught out. I'd always head up to this part thinking, oh fuck, it's the hairpin, but it's not. Okay, so there is a hairpin coming up, but the way I remember that it's the hairpin is that I remember the corner before it, which is this flat out right-hander over the crest of this hill. So over the hill, flat out right-hander, which I always thought was the hairpin, right? That's how I'd done it. Flat out, now I know the next corner is the hairpin, okay? So I've had the experience of thinking it was the previous corner, but it's not, so I can use that to my advantage in my remembrance process. But the key part here is fast right, fast left, caution, fast left, flat out right. That's your warning for the hairpin. Okay, so over the crest of the hill, flat out right, warning for the hairpin. Because again, we've got a blind sort of crest of a hill that if you approach it not realizing the hairpin is there, by the time you remember, it's too late. So as we're approaching sort of, now you might realize, shit, yeah, okay, it's the hairpin, it's too late. Okay, but when you know it's the hairpin there, you can really balance the lateness of your braking into this corner. Okay, so very, very high speed section, which leads into a very evil hairpin, right? But there are warning signs that it's coming. Okay, you got a blind crest of a hill into what happens to be a flat out right-hander, and then the next corner is a blind crest of a hill that is a hairpin. It's almost like it's trying to tease you, going, well, the last one was flat out, what are you going to do here? You do it flat out, you die. Okay, so now we're into evil little hairpin until you learn that it is there. And now we're heading up to, fucking, I was going to call it the corkscrew. It might be called the corkscrew. I do know its proper name. I've just completely gone blank. Basically, it's what I would usually class as sort of the halfway mark around this track. Now, some cars cannot handle this corner at all. Some handle it very, very nicely. What I've learnt is there's no benefit from going into it too quick, because sometimes the quicker you go in, the quicker you come straight out of that lower layer. Now, the way I learnt to remember that this is the corner coming up, and it is the corkscrew, yeah, the way that I remembered it is I actually use evil hairpin as my reminder. Okay, so evil hairpin reminds me, corkscrew next. So that corner is warning me of the next one. That is how I've got my process of learning. So as we approach, don't brake too late, usually about a second gear corner, and the aim is to try and dip in and then hold the car around this lower layer. Don't take it too low, because if you touch that curb on the left hand side of the track, it'll tend to want to spin the car. Once you're in this position though, you can absolutely floor it. Okay, now we're into another high speed section of the track, so a couple of tricky corners. Now we go very, very quick, and again, this is the track trying to kill you, because we can see the corner, we can see that this is a fast corner ahead, and it is a fast corner, but as soon as you're round the fast corner, we're being led up a blind hill into a tight corner. So not necessarily that easy to remember, because again, you're building up speed around up to that left-hander. Excuse me. But what I would say is, for any corner that you can't already see the exit of, get ready to fucking slow down. But this is a corner that once you realise it's there, it's actually a very, very quick chicane. A very simple chicane corner, which leads into a hairpin. So I remember these three corners as pretty fast left, semi-evil chicane into hairpin. So I don't have to remember any other part of the track. I only have to remember those three corners. So it's all dissected into many different small pieces. Now this isn't the worst of hairpins, but if you come in way too quick, it is. Now we're into the a fantastic part of the circuit, which I will admit, a lot of it just flows for me, because I don't really have to think about these corners that often, but I do still take a little bit of caution, because there are a few of these corners where it's tempting to just keep accelerating all the way through, but if you do, chances are you're going to be going off. So I think one of the ways that I kind of learn this part of the track is to be lifting and shifting. Okay, be lifting and be prepared to be shifting for a lot of these corners. If you're on throttle on the way into many of these corners, there's a good chance you're going to run wide. And I know that's very vague, but that is because these are kind of very vague corners. But if you do lifts here and there, it works out quite nicely. Lifts on the way in, floor it on the way out. Okay, I think it's this right hand, or is it the next right hand? No, it's the next right hander that's my bogey corner. So this is a long blind corner, but it's one where if you're lifting on the way in, you can feather your way around the corner and slowly build up the speed. So this is all about lifting and be prepared to be shifting and just controlling the speed and see where you're going, until this bit where you can see where you're going. And this is a surprisingly quick corner, this right hander, but again it's all about lifting and shifting and slowly building up your confidence and speed through that whole sector. There's no other way that I can really tell you that I have learnt that sector. It is lifting and shifting, and hopefully I'll show you that when I do eventually do a lap. Once I get to this point though, and this is a part of the track where many people have ran wide, hit the barriers, this for me is a very memorable part of the track, because the right hander in front of us is an evil motherfucker. It looks like you can absolutely hammer it into that corner, but you can't, because it tightens up and there's a fucking nasty gravel trap on the exit of the corner. So I remember this little straight as a warning, right? So lifting and shifting, little straight is a warning that this is an evil motherfucking corner, because it is so tempting to come in too hot, too fast, run out a touch wide, dip a wheel in that gravel, and then you're fucked, right? So it's almost still in the process of lifting and shifting, but caution on that corner. And the straight warns me. That's how I use it. The straight is the warning. Now we're into a little bit more lifting and shifting if needed. These are very quick corners, even though they're tight, these two. But now, okay. Straight is a warning for the evil fucking corner. And then we'll do a little bit of lifting through a slightly tightish left-hander, but then we're absolutely flat out. From this point on, we're flat out for about 4 corners, right? And this is another wonderful section of this track. Actually, we're not flat out for about 4 corners, it's 3 corners. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, so flat out, down the hill. And I use this dip here as my next warning. It would be so easy for him to have had this just leading up to this corner. like many others have done, but this approach is very unique with this big dip. The big dip, for me, is a warning to brake. Okay, there's some cars where you have to do very little braking because it's quite a quick corner. When I said it's flat out through this bit, it's the next bit, my apologies. Yeah, so this dip is a warning sign to brake. If you go through the dip and brake, you could be on the limit of ability of getting around the corner. But if you brake before the dip, you will have much more grip. So for me, it is car dependent, but the dip is the warning of corner ahead. So brake before the dip. And yes, this is a very quick double right hand corner, but it is definitely not flat out. And then we're into a flat out left hander, and now we're heading towards the Big Dipper, which is the big downhill, which sets you off on the absolutely flat out right, left, right, left. So Big Dipper, flat out, couple of minor corners, then on this longer straighter part, be prepared to slow down. It's not a heavy braking corner, this, it's a very quick corner, but don't get carried away with going faster, because slowing down around this corner leads you into this left-hander, which will catch many people out running wide on the exit. So it's absolutely flat out until the right-hander, where you have to take some caution and slow down around into a tricky left-hand corner that you really have to slow down for. And now we're heading towards a corner where we can see an odd bit of tarmac, and it's what we would call the half corkscrew. Not corkscrew, carousel. Sorry, my mistake, carousel. Yeah, the carousel and the half carousel. So this is the half carousel. So this half carousel corner, it's a tricky little bastard. It really is, because it's not a tidy corner to go around, personally. I think it's just there as a warning more than anything, and that warning is get ready, because you've got two right-handers coming up and then you're on the long straight. That's what I use this corner in this tarmac for. Now, okay, yes, it's a tricky fucking corner, and it's not worth taking any liberties around this corner. It's so easy to spin here, but that carousel part of the corner is a warning. Don't come into me too quick, because I'll spit you out, and get ready, because you're about to get onto the fast bit. Now as we're heading up the hill, that corner's just warned us there's two corners to go, two right-handers. Don't come into this one too quick. It's tighter than you think at speed, and this corner you want to take it as fast as possible, obviously, but lifting and getting around the corner is better than going too fast and running wide. It is a very simple corner, but actually it's a very simple corner to get wrong. Okay, now we're on to the straight. This bit's easy. Okay, so for the straight, very easy to lose concentration. Main thing you need to remember is bridge. When you get to the bridge, there's a left-hand corner. It's absolutely flat out, but I am going to slow it down. Okay. Yeah, it's absolutely flat out. Okay. What is now ahead of us is very, very different from, say, an LMP1 car, Group 1 car, to this, or a Ferrari F40 to a Formula 1. It's very, very, very car specific. Just let me get a drink. Okay. And by that I mean, if you're in a car that is not very high powered but has a lot of grip, Then the corners that are ahead of us, the left and the right, you can go through them absolutely flat out before you need to consider braking, okay? But if you're in an extremely high-powered car that hasn't got any grip, you need to be slowing down around the left-hander that's ahead of us. If you're in an extremely high-powered car that's got a lot of grip, you can go through the left-hander absolutely flat out, and you may just get around the right-hander flat out, but then you're really going to have to be hard on those brakes, okay? Because can't quite see it ahead of us, there's a left, a right, and then there's a left. By that left-hander, you need to have the car ready to take the next right-hand corner. So ahead of us is a slowing down section, but it is dependent car to car. If you're in a phenomenal car, an LMP1 for example, you could come down here, take the left flat out, the right flat out, bang the brakes on, you'll be fine, right? If you were in the Ferrari F40, you could come down here, take the left flat out, take the right flat out, bang the brakes on, and you're crashing, okay? So it is very, very car specific. But what I would say is, there's only one way to find out. Now, it is a very simple section of the track. It is literally a left, a right, a left, a right, a left, a right, end of lap. So in this car, this would be flat out, and bang on those brakes, so that by the time we're going around the left-hander, we're ready for the right-hander. This is an evil bastard. There is nothing to be gained here by coming in way too hot, although it's worth finding out what is way too hot. So it is a very simple left, right, left, right, left. Self-explanatory this, you can see it, into a very, very tight right-hand corner to the finish line. And there you go, a 42-minute lap of the Nordschleife. But what I am going to do is I'm going to try and drive a lap now and crash. Oh. I think that's the worst lap time I have ever done around the Nordschleife. Yeah, well, it is on this game anyway. Right, okay, so yeah, so I'm going to try and do a lap now, and I'll try and it won't be easy because my voice is hurt, and talking and driving around this track is not easy, but I will try and sort of mention the things as I'm going around that I am trying to, that obviously I am using as my memory points. Okay, see how we get on. Okay, so turn one, over the crest of the hill, brake at the end of the wall, don't push it too hard on the way in. Now we're absolutely flat out. If need be, lift, but we're flat out. See the left-hander, that's the one we need to brake for. So a simple chicane leads us into the wigglies, which we have to slow down through, and that leads us on to the evil bitch. Now we're flat out. Over the bridge, in the dip, over the crest of the hill. Hope this car can take the corner flat out. Oh, lifted, but we're still going to stay flat out now. So I'm ignoring all of this part of the track, to be honest. I'm all focused on the big fast left-hander that's coming up. It didn't want to make it flat out. I went down 2 gears then. I only meant to go down 1, but I thought I was going off. Okay, so once we're around the fast left-hander, bang the brakes on. Now we're down the hill, again flat out. How brave are we going to be? Through the dip, flat out. How brave are you going to be here? Not very. bang those brakes on. Ah, double shifted down again. Get ready for the tighter left-hander. Don't push it here. Cars like to spin on curbs. Okay, now we're flat out again, but it's my bogey corner coming up. Over the crest. There's the bogey. That sets us up for the simple left. And the right-hander, I don't even have to worry about. Blind corner, it's the hairpin. Okay, hairpin leads us to flat out bit. Possible lift on the rights. Ah, it's the tight double hairpin. It's my other bogey corner coming up. The kink, the bridge, the braking point. Third gear, don't push it. Now we've got the uphill, unique, lovely cambered corner. And now we're flat out. Unique corner, flat out. Fast left, tempting right, but it's a hairpin that tightens. Now we're flat out. Okay, fast left. So we've not had much to think about. Simple right. Fast right. Fast left. May have to lift left. Usually take it better. Ah, blind hill or blind crest. Flat out right. Blind hill, hairpin. Okay, that hairpin reminds us carousel. Booted it in second and lost the rear. Okay, then we're flat out again. Teasing left-hander tempts you to just keep speeding up, but warning, blindish. Slow down for it. Okay, blind hill, hairpin. Okay, after the blind hill hairpin, we're into lifts and shifts. Oh, it's the unique corner, the little straight, warning on this corner. Tightens up on you, you evil little bastard. Okay, lifts and shifts again. Tight left, easy right. Down the hill, got the little dip coming. Brake. Quite a quick double right-hander. Flat out left-hander into the Big Dipper. Now we stay flat out for the right. Use the curb for the left and the right. Then we've got the left, the little straight. It's the warning. Little brake, quick corner. But as soon as we're around it, slow down for the evil left. Don't run wide. Half mini carousel. Now we saw what the other carousel did us. Spun us, stayed in third for that one though. Carousel's a warning though. Don't go in too quick here. Don't want to run wide. Don't want to lose the speed now. And onto the straight. And breathe. So although there's 140 odd corners around this track, I have broken it down to very, very few in comparison focal points. And what I would say is for anyone that is trying to learn the Nordschleife, Just do it from the start of the lap up to the 10th corner, or what I would class as the second end of the second sector. Okay, into the final corners. This car, we're going to go flat out through the left, flat out through the right. Bang those brakes on. Right, left, tight right, brake too late, and across the line. Not bad, not bad. I don't think I crashed. So yeah, it's simple really, isn't it? Now admittedly, one of the things that I did, I mean I've sort of given an insight there into the process that I use, or how I currently remember this circuit. But as I was learning it, I literally would talk to myself and tell myself, okay, it's this, like, okay, turn one, flat out, there's a right, okay, don't need to brake until that point, okay. And I would talk myself through it. I think that might be the fastest lap I've done in that car down there. So don't be afraid of verbalising, which is a word, by the way. I found out, I googled it, it's in the fucking dictionary, right? Yeah, don't be afraid of talking to yourself to remind yourself of what is coming next. It can be a very practical tool. It's a little bit like if you're looking for your car keys and you can't find them. If you actually say car keys, car keys, car keys, your eyes are more likely to see them. So I've been saying like fit woman, fit woman, fit woman. I've seen a few. Can't touch them. But anyway, yeah, so I have no idea if this will have been of any help to anybody at all, but I figured I'd give it a try and do it. It's the first time I've ever done any kind of guide or explanation of how I drive the Nordschleife. So yeah, it's been an interesting one for me. But I mean, personally, like many people, I used to despise this place, this track. Once I've learnt it, I love it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a massive fan of doing races here because it is so narrow, it's so difficult to overtake, and when we're using in-car views, I like nothing more than getting very close to the car ahead of me, but around this track, it can easily end in disaster. Okay, well, I'm going to pop the replay on for a few moments, but that is going to be me done for this evening. I might let the whole lap play out here, but yeah, hopefully somebody will find this useful. So have a good one, folks. Enjoy the replay, and make sure you check out Dynamic GT League on YouTube. See you all again soon. Right, that's all, folks. See you later.